Yeah, I just knew that the second I got on an airplane back to Los Angeles, you know what would hit the fan, and it did.
Yeah, it certainly did. Well, of course, we now know that the $100 million deal with Netflix is officially over. We'll talk about that in just a second, because, of course, you and I, if people have been paying attention during our many conversations, we've been saying, what, for a couple of months now, that deal is dead in the water. That is now confirmed. But we'll talk about that in a second, and the ramifications of it and what it means for the gruesome twosome financially. I think it means serious problems, by the way. But let's talk about the new line that's come out today, which I find fascinating, because I've been saying, you know, as ever, you know, you can buy dried flowers, cookie mix, all that kind of stuff, runny jam, scam jam, apricot spread. I've been saying this isn't a business, it's not going to work. So she introduced this new range of Chateau Meg rosé wine. We were laughing the other night. It's 14.5% proof, 14.5% alcohol. Folks, that is fall down booze. That is strong. That is strong. But the problem with it really in terms of a business was that it's $30 a bottle. Go to your grocery store next door, you get a nice bottle for about $10, no problem at all. $30 a bottle, but minimum order, 3 bottles. So that's $90. Then there's $20 shipping, $110 for some wine. Well, people are, and by the way, of course, you also have to fill in the form, put your credit card in, order it online, wait for 2 weeks. So I guess if people really, really loved Meghan, they might be prepared to go to that trouble. But here's the problem. They don't really, really love Meghan, do they? Quite the reverse. So they're not bothering to go to that trouble. And as we predicted, as I predicted anyway, it turns out that wine is not selling. And we're also told that the lack of success of that product might be the straw that broke the camel's back for Netflix, because Netflix had a kind of interest, a financial interest in it as ever. And the word is they've looked at how this wine hasn't been selling. They've looked at the lackluster sales for the rest of the product, and they think there's nothing in this. And they're also rather annoyed, apparently, that Meghan is obsessed with as ever and has been ignoring Netflix. So the wine problem and the as ever problem seems to have contributed to the parting of the ways between Netflix and Meghan and Harry. But, you know, not to mention, of course, their incredibly unsuccessful TV shows that they made. So the wine may have been the straw that broke the camel's back. Interesting.
I interpreted one of the things you just repeated from the Daily Mail differently. The idea that Netflix wasn't going to play second fiddle to Meghan. To me, I interpreted that not as Meghan being obsessed with the As Ever brand, as much as it was being obsessed with her own brand, with her own
herself.
rehabilitation.
Okay, good point, Kinsey, good point.
Yeah. I think that she is obsessed with every chess move, or checkers move, I should say. Everybody always says she's playing checkers, not chess. Every move she's made over the last 5 years has been totally selfish. And she wasn't thinking about her partners at Netflix. She wasn't thinking about Prince Harry. She wasn't thinking about Thomas Markle, her children, or the British royal family. It's all been about stomping on other people to elevate herself. And so when I read that line, I believe it was from the Daily Mail, about how they weren't going to play second fiddle, and ultimately that's why they decided to dismiss her, and that she was obsessed with building her brand, I really assumed it was the Meghan Markle brand, all of it.
I think you're exactly right. I stand corrected. Yeah. I hadn't thought of that. I think you're exactly right. It's because, of course, Netflix did have an interest in As Ever. I'm not sure where that stands now. But you put me straight there. What I think they've become fed up, or what you're saying, and I agree with you, they've become fed up with her self-obsession, her own brand, her own image, to the detriment of Netflix. Either way, we're told that the parting of the ways between Netflix and Meghan and Harry has been amicable. But quite a few quotes coming out from Netflix that don't make it quite seem that way.
Well, first of all, I just want to say Netflix is very quick, because they've done it with me. Netflix is very quick to try to silence stories that they don't believe, or silence stories that they are saying are incorrect, inaccurate. And they haven't done that here.
Yeah.
We haven't had Netflix swoop in and say, whoa, 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 you guys are, you guys are premature here. We haven't made any decisions, which they have in the past. Certain statements have come out, like Ted Sarandos talking to Variety, telling us that he thinks Meghan is the second coming, that he really thinks that she's an influencer. She has global influence. And so the fact that Netflix hasn't tried to stop this story from circulating over the last 3 days, I think speaks volumes.
It's true, Kinsey. It's 100% true. And what I always said, and I think you agree with me, Ted Sarandos, the chief executive of Netflix, big fan of Meghan, and I think his problem was this. He computed that someone like Meghan, who gets so many column inches written about her, I mean, there is something compelling about her. People are fascinated by her, but not necessarily in a good way. He just thought, if you get written about that much, if you get talked about that much, there must be money in it. Surely Netflix can capitalize on this. What I think he didn't factor in was the truth about Meghan. Yes, people are fascinated with her. That doesn't mean to say they like her. They're fascinated with her as a kind of, almost a sort of Cruella de Vil character, and that does not add up to financial success. So, and I also always said that one day Ted Sarandos is going to have to face down his shareholders, who are going to say, hang on a second, exactly how much money are you spending on this couple, because they're not bringing home the bacon.
Well, also around the time that he signs with Harry and Meghan have had meetings with Quibi, which has since gone out of business. That was a micro video site that Meghan started meeting with before she stepped down as a working member of the British royal family. Apple Plus, Harry had already agreed to participate in an Oprah Winfrey documentary called The Me You Can't See, and Apple had showed interest in working with Prince Harry on additional projects. And he was in talks. I believe that he was supposed to produce something with Amazon Prime Video right before he signed with Netflix. So already Netflix is like, well, we got to get him, because there are these other discussions happening. So we want to be the ones that secure this great get. Additionally, they had so much success with The Crown at that time. Unbelievable Emmy-winning success. The critics loved The Crown. Everybody's falling over themselves about this beautifully scripted television show that's not necessarily the most accurate, but it's a gorgeous TV show. They had just bought Diana, the Broadway production that aired on Netflix, which turned out to be a colossal failure. But at the time, it was, they clearly were going all in on royal content. And this was the ultimate in when it came to royal content with Harry and Meghan. They overplayed their hand. The return on investment wasn't there. And that's one of the reasons why I was surprised to learn that Netflix was not going to renew their contract, having made a big deal out of partnering with Meghan on As Ever, because if you don't believe in your investment in one category, you don't believe in your investment in the other category. Basically, by Netflix saying, yeah, you know what, it's reached the end of its course, everything's fine, but we've just decided to move on, they're saying, As Ever is not that great either. I mean, that's basically what they're saying. We don't believe in As Ever. And we talked about Netflix, their concern with Meghan, her personal brand, her obsession with her personal brand. Well, I interpret that in this article as well. Yes, according to Meghan Markle and her team, she has sold out. But how much of that is an ego-driven strategy that frustrates Netflix? Netflix would rather all of us have As Ever loose fruit spread in our kitchen cabinets or in our refrigerators.
Scam jam.
How much of her quote-unquote selling out legitimately is Meghan and her team trying to just look like they sold out so that they have headlines that say they sold out, when in reality, they did not create enough product. It's irresponsible. It's irresponsible and it's messy. And maybe Netflix was just exhausted with chasing this person's ego.
Yeah, we'll talk about also the stunning lack of success of their programs, which must have disappointed Netflix no end. Of course, Harry's awful program, Polo, charted in the Netflix charts at around about 3,600. I mean, literally 3,600, unbelievable. And, of course, With Love, Meghan, didn't even make the top 300, 383rd that came in. Humiliating, embarrassing. It's a flop official. So television-wise, Netflix obviously reached the conclusion that after their nasty little series, Harry and Meghan, when they poured a bucket of venom all over King Charles and his family, and in fact, people like me, all the people in Britain, the royal family, according to that series, were racists. All of us Brits, we're slave drivers. So although that was nasty and horrible, again, you know, there's an attraction about that kind of nastiness. So that sold. That series did okay. Ever since then, disastrous. Their television efforts have been disastrous. So TV.
Can I tell you what? Can I tell you what somebody close to Harry and Meghan told Page Six?
Yeah.
I think it's very interesting. They said there's more TV projects coming soon with both the Duke and Duchess. So if you like being bored out of your gourd, you know, you've got something to look forward to. But the insider pointed out that With Love, Meghan was actually in the top 5% of Netflix's shows, ranking 383 out of 7,500. And they stressed that it outperformed other leading lifestyle shows, such as season 9 of Queer Eye. But Queer Eye was just canceled by Netflix. So I'm like, if you're going to try to rally, if you're going to try to defend this horrible television show, why are you trying to compare it to a show that was recently canceled? Like their spokespeople, even the people whispering in Page Six's ear, they have no clue what they're doing.
There's no way anybody in the television industry goes, fantastic, we came 383rd in the charts. That is a mega flop. It's a Meghan flop, in fact. Simple as that. Now, the other aspect of Meghan's downfall is, of course, the as ever farce. I think it's a joke of a business. And these two brand experts who do a podcast called The Art of the Brand. It's a Canadian lawyer called Philip Miller and a California marketing executive called Camille Moore. I mean, they haven't held back. They've said this lifestyle brand, as ever, they say, is being run, this is a quote, run by a confederacy of dunces, and that the sole purpose behind it is to help Meghan get maximum value from her fame that came from Suits and being a part of the royal family. But this is Mr. Miller goes on to say, I'm agitated by her so much because it is a deliberate misrepresentation of what she is, because she thinks she can pretend to be that while actually being she's pretending to be a sort of domestic goddess, and she's not, and she's just using her royal connections to sucker people into buying her stuff, and every step of the way he says she's failing because it's not legitimate, it's not intelligent, and it's not well executed. Well, Mr. Miller, don't sit on the fence, but I think it does sum it up. And by the way, this is really interesting. They talk also, these two, about what I'm always asking you this. In America, do you have the word flippity-gibbet?
Well, only because you say it to me all the time.
Well, she can't concentrate on anything for any time, so she just sort of jumps from one thing.
Lack of consistency.
Yeah, exactly right. So what they're saying is, you know, suddenly she'll have this kind of bombarding session on Instagram, day in, day out. Here's another picture of me with the back of one of my kids' heads. Here's another picture of me with the back of the other kid's head. Here's a picture of me with Harry's hand, you know, and all this kind of nonsense. Well, apparently for the past week, nothing.
Well, it's because the British royal family have been quiet. We know the drill. When the British royal family has something important to say, that's when Meghan decides to post random pictures of her children's elbows.
Yeah. So Miller goes on, exactly. Miller goes on to say there was nothing about her brand that was good from the start to a distinguishing eye. And he said she was a fraud who was just using opportunities to advance herself. Her brand wasn't one built on substance. It was based on using people. They're not executing anything well on any show, on anything. He goes on to say it shows how gullible some customers are, but I don't think there are enough customers. That's the problem. And it's interesting what he's saying. I think he's saying what you were saying earlier in our conversation, that actually, we talk about Meghan and her brand as ever. We talk about Meghan and the TV shows the awful TV shows she made. But what she's really interested in is promoting herself, isn't it? It's all about herself. So as ever is really just a kind of mechanism that gets her onto the front pages in her mind. It's true. You're right. You made a good point there. She's a narcissist who just wants people to talk about her. Maybe doesn't care about As Ever that much and never did care that much about Netflix. She just wants to be talked about.
Well, and she is being talked about. Her friends,
but not in a good way.
Yeah, her friends are trying to justify this Sussex spiral right now by saying she just wants to continue to focus on her lifestyle range as ever. Now, the reason why they're saying this, of course, is because they want us to ignore the fact that Confessions of a Female Founder bombed. With Love, Meghan bombed. Season 2 is going to be savaged by the critics. We already know it will, because we know it was shot back to back with season 1. So there will be little changes made based on audience feedback from season 1. And they say that, she has a champagne range coming out, and there are going to be holiday products. I mean, for the love of God, Meghan Markle ruining Jesus's birthday. I didn't think it could get any worse, but here we are. And it says, as a growing business as ever is continuing, listen to this very generic verbiage, as a growing business as ever is continuing to explore growth opportunities that feel aligned with the brand's core values and quality standards. Loose fruit spread doesn't really strike me as quality.
Made by factories.
And we don't mention enough the amount of people that paid Meghan Markle money to receive an email a few hours or days later to tell them that they actually don't have the product that their credit card was swiped for, and they're going to have to issue them a refund. That is absolutely unacceptable when it comes to a new business. It says the brand continues to evolve with new products and align with her vision for quality lifestyle goods at accessible price points, like $30 for booze. And yeah, I just think that the focus on As Ever products is really just trying to distract us from the various failures, archetypes, to Confessions of a Female Founder, What Happened to American Riviera Orchard, Pearl, canceled, Heart of Invictus.
She's a comedy of errors, isn't she? Everything goes wrong with her. Let me ask you this, a couple of last questions, Kinsey. Great to talk to you as always, of course. Losing the Netflix contract, it was $100 million. I'm not sure whether they ever banked that much, because I think it was productivity related, but they certainly made quite a lot of money out of Netflix. That sort
they certainly more so than Spotify. Spotify, it was embarrassing, the productivity. One series from Meghan, and then one Christmas special starring Tyler Perry and Elton John. For which they were called grifters, and they lost that $20 million contract pretty damn sharpish, with the company rather fed up with him and making it very clear that they were. But what effect do you think that without this source of income from Netflix, do you think that the gruesome twosome in their massive Montecito mansion and their estimated $4 million a year basic expenses to their cost of living is at least $4 million? That's just for the basics, paying the mortgage and the security and all that. Do you think that because they've lost the Netflix money, they will now struggle? I think that because they lost the Netflix money and probably saw the writing on the wall, that's why their representative was sent to the United Kingdom to meet with King Charles's representative. I think
Yeah.
that they realize that the end is near and there's a panic because they other major streaming outlets like Amazon and let's say Peacock or one of the other ones that create original content have recognized that the return on investment is simply not there. They have terrible ideas. Harry wanting to sit down with Putin, Harry wanting
The
to
Pope.
sit down with Trump, the Pope and Trump, who he criticizes on a regular basis. They're not creative individuals. Their work ethic is questionable. And according to people that have worked with them in the past, allegedly, they are nasty to work for. They're horrible to work for. They're not kind individuals. So why would anybody want to take on that drama?
Yeah, you see, you were way ahead of me, Kinsey, because that was going to be my next question. This embarrassing debacle, this circus that unfolded a couple of weekends ago now when Meredith Maines, the Gruesome Twosome's chief communications officer, flew over from California, touched down in London for secret meetings with Harry and Meghan's London PR, Liam Maguire, and the King's right-hand man, his head of communications, Tobin Andre. That meeting, alleged peace talks, they were leaked everywhere, all over the front page of the Mail on Sunday. So something went wrong in terms of the leak there. But it was projected as, talks about talks, very preliminary talks about potential peace talks to heal the rift between Harry and his dad. And you thought, oh, he's missing his family. Isn't that nice? He wants a rapprochement.
Oh, his dad is sick. That's so sweet. He's finally thinking about his father who's ill.
Yeah, but as you say, and I've heard this from other sources as well, that the reason for this meeting actually could well have been that Harry is in dire financial straits and he needs the Bank of Dad to reopen. That's why he wanted to have a line of communication to the King again, who doesn't talk to his son anymore because he doesn't trust him, to see if he can get some money out of him because he's in financial trouble.
Well, one of my favorite stories is from when the Queen asked Prince Charles at the time, the late Queen Elizabeth asked Prince Charles at the time, why won't you take Harry's phone calls? Because Harry had complained to her team about it. And he said, because I'm not an ATM. Every time Prince Harry was calling his father, it was some question about money. It was trying to get something else out of his dad. And his dad was like, it's your bed. You made your bed, lie in it. There are consequences to your decisions, which Harry and Meghan still struggle to comprehend. They take no accountability for their cruelty and their actions over the last 5 years, and nobody wants to deal with them anymore. And it's like what you were saying. There is a morbid curiosity associated with two privileged people that continue to make such detrimental life decisions. We can't look away because we can't believe they made that decision or that decision. We're horrified by it. Not only did Harry tear into his brother and his sister-in-law, who recently dealt with cancer, but he spends a pretty decent amount of time talking about his wiener in the book Spare. What company or brand wants to work with a prince who is so vulgar and icky? I mean, he could have come over here and had a completely different life, but he's become a joke. He's become a punchline. Meghan wears the pants in the family. What's Prince Harry doing? Smoking another bowl? His mother would be so devastated in the shell of a human being he's become.
You're right. They're a car crash couple. It's a car crash soap opera. We're drawn to it, but not in a good way. And that's why there's no money in them anymore. And that's why I think they're in big financial difficulty. What did I say months ago? Going forward, what would the story be about these two?
The story would be the financial strain.
Exactly. Always listen to your Uncle Kev, Kenzie. Listen, thank you very much. Great to talk to you. Have a lovely weekend. We'll talk again on Monday. Always a pleasure, Kins.